Hey guys, just got off of a very long weekend of training on pools. It went great. Eric was actually in town from Phoenix, and having him help me was really fantastic. Kind of kept my voice, having a few people help talk throughout the weekend. We also had the guys from Aquamatic came in, Pentair came in, the guys from Rental It came in. So we had a lot of guys helping me do what I do. Which is going to make it a lot easier to do those in the future, maybe a little more often, and in a really slick location to help us do it where weather's not a factor, anything like that. So I've been meaning to do this for a little while. You might remember a few weeks ago I did a video where I showed 6 different brands of ICF, kind of compared and contrasted really briefly, like 2 to 3 minutes per block. Kind of hit the high spots and just highlighted some stuff. A lot of you guys reached out, thought that was really cool. Some of you wished that I had made some other brands get involved. I mean, I know people that sell almost every kind of ICF block around the country, but rounding up their block, I mean, I have the same logistical issues as you might trying to get block to different spots. But I think what I'm going to do over the next few weeks is, in addition to my regular pool content and cool, just random ICF stuff, and other things, I'm going to do a deep dive into each of those brands. Did have a guy from Central Missouri bring me a set of Superform, so I am going to add Superform. I got a buddy who does Amvic. I may add Amvic and possibly Logix to the list as well. So maybe we're going to do 9, 10, 11, 12 different brands of ICF over the next few months, where they're just there for posterity. And if you are interested in a particular block, I will really dive into everything I like. I'll try to be fair about each block, try to give you at least one negative. There's got to be something, right? But I think all those blocks are good. You won't probably see me do anything with like ICCF because I don't see a lot of value in that stuff, and I'm not going to do a video just bagging on something. So I'll just leave that out. But I will try to highlight, a lot of you guys are going to be interested in different blocks. A lot of ICF, the issues or wherever you live, why you're going to want a certain kind of block is logistics. I mean, there's 10 or 12 blocks that I would build with depending on the circumstance. And with me, the first one we're going to do this week is Fox blocks. Reason being is a lot of times I'm going to compare other blocks to Fox because Fox is in most of my videos. With Fox being in most of my videos, because for one thing, they're made 10 minutes from me. That's a huge help. There's very little logistical expenses to getting them to my job sites. That's actually true of Build Block and a few other blocks too that are made in the same plant. And we'll get into that aspect of a lot of the manufacturing process in some of the future videos. But as I go through them, I'm just going to get into, okay, well, for instance, Superform, they were just made in Canada 3 or 4 years ago. They started making them in Ohio as well. So if you're in one of those markets, you may love that block. If you're in Southern California, it may be logistically a little more prohibitive than another block. We'll get into that. But anyway, so today we're going to do Fox. I'm going to get into kind of the history of the block and the suite of products, and we'll just kind of analyze a few things that I really like. Maybe a couple things that I wish were slightly different, but we'll get into that now. All right, guys. So Fox Blocks is actually made, they're a subsidiary of a large company called Airlight Plastics out of Omaha, Nebraska. Airlight's been around since I think the 1940s, not making ICF at that point, but making a lot of cool products out of plastic, So they were there really at the genesis, the birth of plastics industry. They've been around the entire time. So a lot of plastics companies, they're making the web, so they get into ICF just as kind of an offshoot of the business. And a lot of businesses have come and gone over the years, but Fox has been one that's been around, for decades at this point, and they've got a really good block. They've got a lot of nice, intelligent design built into the block, and that's what I'm going to get into first. Their blocks are nominally 4 foot by 16 inches, the regular straight blocks. And then their corners, which we'll get into, it's one of my favorite things about Fox blocks. They have what they call the extended corner, one of the largest corners in the business, which makes it one of the most robust corners in the business. First thing I will get into is talking about the straights. They're 4 foot long by 16 inches, like I said. The interlockers, or in our common hillbilly vernacular, the nubs, the nublets, dingleberries, whatever we call the system of interlock between them. It's very robust. You see me punching them and beating on them sometimes just to show you they don't really damage. They're very durable. You can, you toss them on the ground on a job site. There's some blocks with some interlocks that one thing right there would probably make them where they don't want to snap back in because they lay over or they dent or whatever. So I really, really like the simplicity of the design. If you're going more than one story up, just like almost all blocks, we'll get into a couple that have, designed around this. You tape over it so you don't get concrete in the female parts of the interlock so that they don't want to lock down after the fact or cause you a lot of labor flipping them out. But anyways, so I really like that. The blocks are the studs or the webs are laid out on 8-inch centers, which, being that we are in the US and everything is laid out on 16-inch centers, you've got studs on normal layout, effectively. They write the word Fox blocks that shows you where every web is, and then they give you a line every 2 inches to give you nominal layouts. Just like almost every block is going to be that way, guys. And, some of the blocks that we're going to show you have 6-inch centers, so they'll give you lines every 1 inch, so you can see all of that. But we find that, Nudura was what I started with back in the day, and it's very similar to this in this way. Studs are lined out, then there's 3 lines in between, 2, 4, 6, and then the next one is the next web at 8. So that's the basic anatomy of these blocks. They've got a lot of good area to put rebar. And mode of attachment, they have these clips. Some of the other companies, reps and everybody else, they'll use the fact that their block doesn't need clips as a reason, to go with them over Fox. I love HV clips. HV stands for horizontal and vertical. You clip them horizontally, the first 2 rows together. You'll clip the verticals together, one row to the next. And once you do that, they're locked in so tightly. I've just never had an issue. I've seen pump guys that don't understand ICF dumping absolute liquid concrete, probably an 8 or a 9 slump into a foundation, dump an entire truck into one corner, which would spell disaster for almost any block. Between the extended corner and these clips, it didn't blow. I mean, it was spread out so much I could put my fingers between the blocks, and I was yelling at them and hollering and telling them what they were about to cause, and we got through to them after that first truck. But the clips give you a lot of grace. I really like them because they're so strong. Nudura has a set of clips too. They're a little harder to put on. With these HV clips here, they've got this little tail. It kind of acts as a handle, keeps your fingers from getting pinched and getting blood blisters all over your fingers. So I really like those. So that's one of the ancillary products. The positives about Fox blocks as far as logistics, because shipping this stuff, obviously this stuff has no weight to it. An entire semi-load of stuff like this can weigh 3,000 pounds or less. So that's not the issue. It's still getting it over the road, getting it many miles to your job site. These blocks come assembled, so you are shipping a lot of air. Some of the blocks fold, some of the blocks come broken down. We'll get into some of those different blocks and why they do it that way. Fox blocks and a few of the other companies have attacked the logistical issues by sending their molds out to quality plastic molders that they contract with. Like why I can buy these in Missouri is because a different company contracted with Airlight to make their blocks. They send their blend of EPS from Airlight, and they send their webs already made at Airlight. And then they go into the molds locally here and they make them. And I think Fox Blocks right now is making them in about 14 places around the US. They make them in Grand Cayman, down in the Caribbean, and a few other places. They got small batch plants. So they are pretty well dispersed over the US, so you're never more than a few hundred miles from a place that makes Fox. That said, they make 6s and 8s, 6-inch core, 8-inch core, and maybe a few other ancillary blocks, but anything 10, 12, radius block, anything special is still going to be made only in Omaha, and you're going to have a higher shipping cost to get those specialty blocks to you, which is very typical of most of the blocks. It's rare that an entire suite of products of a brand are going to be made in a particular plant that does not belong to the corporate office. Okay, so the last anatomical thing I'll get into is this extended corner. I'll compare all corners. I may bring the Fox corner back in just to kind of show that as we move on. It is the 6-inch one, and everyone's about this size. They vary a little bit depending on the cores. 6 inches, it's a 40-inch long leg by a 24-inch short leg. That is a big corner in the industry. It has 2 webs on the short leg. Many blocks don't, and that makes a big difference. It also has this corner brace, which a lot of blocks don't have, and it makes their corners their weak link. Even some of the really awesome blocks are just kind of known to have corners you got to be careful with. Fox corners I barely think about, and knock on wood, I have never had an issue with a Fox corner to this day. I've never blown one out. As a lot of you guys know, when we do training, we build a small Fox block wall. We booby trap it, we maim it, we do everything we can to make sure it has a blowout in a particular spot. And then we train on how to deal with that in real time. And I've actually failed to make it blow out a couple times when I was trying to, much less the corners. But even just when I cut away webs and I score the foam, just a clip has messed me up because it held on, just forgetting to cut the nubs off. Just the nubs were enough to hold it back from blowing out with 6 or 7 feet of concrete stacked on it. So very robust block, really good. And now I'm going to get into the suite of products that they carry. And this is actually probably going to be my one negative on Fox. Because like I said, I think that they're widely available. Their price is very consistent across the nation because of that. Their suite of products, I wish they made a little bit more stuff. You'll get into other blocks down the road like Build and Amvic that have, foam that goes under for hydronic, that goes under slab. They have Amdeck or Build Deck, like a roof product or a ceiling product, and or way more radius blocks, one-sided blocks that like Nudura and Build make that Fox is in the process of redesigning, and we're kind of helping with that. Hopefully, we've got a really cool web out that's sort of pool or at least wet contact specific with our web that, so they don't have a huge suite of products. And what they will tell you is they want to be awesome at this thing. And given as we're just starting a brand new company and we have a million directions we could go with all 3 pools and trying to be great at the things we do, I kind of like that, but at the same time, I wish they had, like I said, more stuff. What they do have, really good block, right? They have a few radii that are special order from Omaha that are handy when you have turrets or curved pools, but it's not a giant selection. I think they have 4-foot radius, and then it's like 5, 10, 20. It's like 4 to 5 radii that they have total. And again, you have to special order them. They take a little bit of time to come in. They do have a compact form. So if you do live a little too far away to make it logistically feasible, from Omaha, they do stack them up where they just stack. Then they send you a pre-made web that inserts in here, like so. I'm not going to go all the way because once they latch in, they're pretty much there. But that goes in, and you build the blocks on site. Now you have a little labor on assembly, but you obviously have a lot less shipping because they can ship many times more block in a semi if it's stacked up with no air. So they make a compact form, which is nice. Like I said, they make the HV clips. And then another thing they do that we've started speccing out on a lot of pools is when you're in a seismic or super cold climate. We deal a bunch in Canada and a bunch in California anymore. We've got a lot of work going on both places. California is obviously seismic, right, guys? So we're doing pools, you get a lot of shaking, rattling, rolling. And when that happens, your pool is shaking this way and your pipe's coming through. The gravel outside might be going in a different direction. You get what's called a shear break, where the pipe is sheared off by the movement of the earth and the pool being opposite. One of the cool things about ICF pools is that we're able to hide the pipes inside the wall if the pipes are smaller than the side of the block. So while it's not what they're intended for, Fox makes something called an energy stick. Nudura makes a 4-inch thick, Amvic makes a 4-inch thick side, where they call them their R30 blocks, or their they call them a few different things. But what that accomplishes in, for efficiency is it moves, like let's say this is 4 inches thick, it's going to move your thermal mass of your concrete to the inside, meaning it's absorbing more of your heated climate than the cold air outside, because you have more foam blanketing the concrete, so your thermal mass is more efficient to your house. In pools, it gives us a place to hide pipe. If you put an energy stick in here, you're going to lose 2 inches of concrete. So generally, if I need 6 inches, I'm going to use an 8-inch form. If I need 10 inches, I'm going to use a 12-inch form. and every variation of that. But they're pieces of foam that insert down in the side of the block, creating a 4-inch foam portion of the wall. And in Canada, the reason these things are happening is Canada has got some legislation where they require R30 walls in a lot of ways. That actually is, in my opinion, really good for ICF because it's very, very difficult to get wood frame to R30. You're using SIP panels or Zip-R, a lot of advanced framing methods that become more costly. So the more that they legislate wood into extreme, levels, ICF just becomes a no-brainer because it can get to R30 very easily. In fact, Fox has some stuff on their website where if you have 2 energy sticks, you can be at R39 easily. All that adds a little bit of cost, yada, yada. But the energy sticks are cool. They're cool for pools because when we're building them in California, we like to hide the pipes inside of the shell. Like we just carve it away just like we were putting wire in the form and foam it back in. Now it's inside of the thermal mass, and it's also going to move with the pool instead of with the gravel or the backfill. So love the energy sticks. Love the compact forms. We do have a ton of people coming to training or reaching out from the Caribbean because, they really got waylaid by a couple hurricanes a few years ago, so they all see the absolute benefit of the structural superiority of ICF. Okay, and in addition to the energy sticks, which we haven't seen a ton of use for in the U.S. yet, but I really do see, especially the colder climates and in pools in seismic areas. We're doing a lot of Nudura 1 stuff right now because we want a one-sided form in some instances, but I love the R30 stuff. I really do. But they also make what's called a Fox buck, which is a foam buck for windows and door openings. The thing I really like about that is that's a true thermal break. There is no thermal bridging. Most of your wooden versions, it's a thermal bridge. Those bucks will conduct heat through the wall much faster than the rest of the wall, so every one of those penetrations creates a thermal bridge where the Fox buck doesn't. Any foam buck that's made is slightly more difficult to brace up. It's not hard at all. If you follow the directions that are laid out for you by Fox blocks, it's really not hard. But if you guys remember the video I posted with John Martin when he was building his own in-laws quarters at his house, he went with the Gorilla Bucks, which is, if you do like wooden buck systems, I think it's the best one because it's 1.5 inches thick, but it only has a 3/4 inch thermal bridge because it does have an inlaid keyway of foam built into the inside or outside of the buck, depending on how you're looking at it. The part that faces the concrete has a foam insert that keeps the bridging to a minimum, but it's still a bridge. If I'm building something in a climate where that's even remotely a concern to me, I use Fox bucks every time because it's a complete thermal break. And I really like thermal breaks. When I talk about pools and everything else, I've got breaks on every side. I really work hard to thermally break from the earth because you're just saving money forever after you do it correctly. Okay, and the last thing I'll get into on Fox blocks, guys, is their website is really good. There's a ton of BIM files and CAD files and stuff that show a million ways of skinning every cat. Their pool stuff, in my opinion, they've got a lot of generalities. We obviously at all three have a lot more very specific design and data. We do things a little different with a lot of stuff being monopored, eliminating as many cold joints as we can. But I mean, they don't dislike that. They're just trying to give you super simple answers. But with pools, I think we can be a lot more specific with us. But they have so many files, guys, so much engineering, so much data and help and assistance. Their reps nationwide are fantastic. I know a lot of the residential reps around the country. Mine locally, his name is Kelvin. There's a guy in the Southwest I deal with a lot named Alfonso. They have a guy from the east side of the Mississippi and west side that do all commercial stuff, school buildings, hospitals, hotels. Those guys are great. And I deal with some of the higher up guys about a lot of global stuff that we're working on, and they're all fantastic. It's a really good company to work with in that way. So, guys, as you guys are growing your company, Fox is so big, I feel like they're just going to be around. There's a lot of blocks that come and go, and I probably won't review a lot of those blocks, but when we get into a weird block that's kind of I don't know that they'll be around. Very recently, I'm not going to say which flooring system. There was a floor system that was on its way into bankruptcy, and I had heard that from a few different people. And I was walking around World of Concrete with a guy in Orange County that we've been talking to, and he was very excited about that flooring system. And I just said, just do your due diligence. I don't know. He ended up going a totally different route, and it's great. And if he would have put deposits in with that company, I'm sure he wouldn't have lost them, but it could have delayed his project. So I like going with companies that are established, that have really good management backing, everything like that. I can say nothing but good things about Fox in that way. Like I said, if I had a negative, I had to find something to be, I wish they made more stuff. That's not a real big negative, but that would be the only negative, is that they're very specific to just being really good block manufacturers. And so yeah, guys, that's Fox Blocks. And next week, I will probably either do Stronghold or Nudura. I may do Superform next, I don't know, but I've got a bunch of blocks I've already got, and I'm ready to do videos. I got a few more I'm waiting to come in. But yeah, guys, Fox is a great block. This one will be one that I compare other blocks to just because of my knowledge base. It's not because I'm saying that any of these blocks are better than another. I'm just kind of giving you guys, food for thought, comparison. At the end of the day, in my belief, the very worst ICF block is far better than its lumber or block alternative. All right, so guys, I will be back with you guys next week. We're actually going to announce a training in August for pools and ICF work sooner than later. We've already got a date picked out, and a really cool thing is, in addition to Eric, Patrick, who he's kind of the Wizard of Oz. You guys probably know he lives in Poland most of the year, and he does all of the business stuff in the middle of the night because he operates on U.S. time zones and stuff. But he's actually going to fly in and be there, and he's so great at the business development side of stuff, and really going to teach you a lot about pools and what can be done. This training, he's probably just going to touch on it a little bit. But man, I can't tell you how cool it is watching talented guys grow this business with me. Eric walked everybody through a pool virtually at training. And I mean, the sky's the limit where we're headed, guys. But I'm just going to keep making this content for all of you guys. So when you guys are getting into whatever projects that your heart desires, the information is there for forever, hopefully, on YouTube, as long as they keep that stuff going. I'll see you guys next week.